Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
By the time you're finished listening to this Pepsi Zero Sugar, you'll be 15 seconds closer to kickoff. Stock up now. Bengals game day is so close, you can almost taste it. Bengals watching. Better with Pepsi.
There's no better feeling than a personal win, and the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you do just that. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined from Valencia by Mr. Karl Matcha. How are you, sir?
In permanent alternating states of very, very full and very, very hungry.
But at least you're warm.
Yes, definitely warmer
warm
than Guy, for example.
Yes, exactly. Guy is having to ski to the shops these days. I'd like it known that it's just wet here. It's not actually cold. It's just very, very wet at the moment. Not as wet, obviously, though, as it has been in other places, so I don't want to play it up too much. Right, Mr. Match. Liverpool take on Manchester City on Sunday in what is a bit of a defining match. Obviously, Manchester City come in this horrendous run of form. 5 straight defeats, followed by a 3-3 draw with Feyenoord, which I would actually say is worse than a defeat, given they were 3-0 up with 15 minutes to go at home against the team 4th in the Eredivisie.
Very fair. I mean, they all said after the game it felt like a defeat, and even if it's not in terms of they got 1 extra point in the Champions League group, from a mental perspective, from that dressing room perspective, you can absolutely imagine that it did feel pretty horrendous for them. Not just because of the fact of the 3 goals that they conceded, and not just the fact that against a team who, let's be fair, are probably 2 levels at least below them, but also the manner of the goals conceded, which were, let's face it, a shambles.
Yeah, each one more calamitous than the previous one was the best way I saw it described during the week. Josko Gvardiol having brain farts on 2 of them. And I think Ederson can be credited with brain farts on 2 of them as well. The second, a combined brain fart. The first, all Gvardiol. The third, all Ederson. You do have to admire a team that gift the opposition 2 goals and then decide to play a suicidal high line just to see out a game, though. That's very impressive, Pep.
Do we dare label Pep's approach there Spursy?
A little bit Ange Postecoglou-esque.
Yeah.
I know Pep is a big fan of Ange, but maybe having watched Ange dismantle his team at the weekend, he decided to steal something from Ange's bag before Ange left the building, and it was a suicidal high line while trying to see out a game of football that you should have won comfortably. Karl, we got bad news today, and that is that Ibrahima Konate looks set to miss between 4 and 6 weeks with a knee injury. Now, it's not all bad news, because it could have been worse. There were initial fears that it could be 2 months, 3 months, even season ending. But it is only 4 to 6 weeks. Now, Simon Brundish makes the point that Ibu has had this injury before, and it took until match week 10 for him to come back. Ibu is a little bit of a slow healer. So, we have to keep our fingers crossed that it is either on schedule and preferably closer to the early side of that schedule. But it could have been worse. It could have been worse, and people need to remember that. And we do have 2 quality centre-backs to come in. Joe Gomez obviously is having a good season. João Kwanzaa has had a ropey season, but we know that João Kwanzaa can do a job for us at a good level. So we should have confidence that if Kwanzaa is called upon, he will provide a good level of performance. We've also learned that Conor Bradley is expected to be out until the end of December, possibly January. That wouldn't be as much of a blow, given we have Trent back and we have Joe, if Ibu wasn't out as well. But with both of them out, plus Kostas Tsimikas currently out, it does leave us a little bit short of defensive cover.
I think it leaves us entirely short of cover. It leaves us at the edge of what we've got in defence, doesn't it? I don't think it's at a point where we can complain about it exactly. The only one I would complain about is the Kanate injury, because you're not getting to the ball, Endrick, and he just throws himself through the back of, or tries to throw himself through the back of.
I would disagree with your characterization of what Endrick did.
What do you think he did? He was never
stumbled. He got sandwiched by Virgil and Ibu. He was close to the balls. He doesn't get thrown stuff on him. He gets shoved onto him.
He's never getting to that, and he's tried to plough through the middle of them. But regardless, I don't think it puts us in a position where we can complain about absences. It does leave us with, I would say, just a back 4, which obviously limits any kind of rotation or anything, unless Trent is able to play a significant part in matches. And I wonder if that's actually the case, given he wasn't the very late sub for Bradley, obviously.
That is the concern. We don't really know where Trent stands at the moment. Now, look, it's a squad, so we do have options. If the starting back 4 is going to be Trent, Gomez, Virgil and Robbo, João Kwanzaa gives us cover at centre-back. Endo can also play at centre-back. Now, it wouldn't be ideal, but the lad will do a job for you. Curtis Jones can easily go and play right back if we need him to. He's done it in the past. So there is a little bit of cover there. There is no cover at left back, bar Joe Gomez playing there. So that's a little bit of an issue. But Kostas will be the quickest back of the 3. The expectation is he's back in about 2 weeks. I do wonder if we may have to dip into the academy to perhaps even just fill out the bench a little bit. So maybe Amaranallo, who looks by far the most ready of the academy defenders that I saw against Real Madrid in the week. He might be given a call up to the bench and potentially play some minutes against Southampton in the League Cup. But yeah, look, all this coming at once is less than ideal, and hopefully it's not anything that's going to impact us too badly. I'm sure that if Arne said to Luis Diaz, look, we need you to play left back this weekend, it's the only option we have. Diaz might not know what he's doing, but he'll give you the effort. He'll put in the shift. He'll work really hard. He'll be really aggressive. Darwin has flirted with playing right back. Maybe you stick him into the back line. But we have to find solutions in the squad. That's just the nature of it. Everybody has injuries. And when Arsenal fans were crying about their injuries, our response was, everybody has injuries. We can't now sit here and cry about our own injuries because, again, everybody has injuries. We just need to get on with it. And speaking of injuries, Manchester City committed this weekend with no Rodri and no Kovacic. So they're missing their starting midfield. Oscar Bob is out. Jeremy Doku is a doubt. And John Stones is expected to miss out with a foot issue that he's had for a number of months. So they're missing players as well. And I think it's fair to say that Rodri is a bigger blow to them than any of the players we're currently missing. Now, Ali is Rodri level, but we've got Queven Kelleher to step in. They have Rico Lewis to step in, and that's quite the gulf.
Yeah, I think that's the case. as a result of, or when combined with it, whichever one you want to look at, Kovacic being out. Because when Kovacic came in after Rodri's injury, he was actually one of their best players for the first few games. He was in a obviously deeper role than usual, but he was playing exceptionally well and is very, very quickly forgotten. But at the time, there was talk of maybe Man City won't miss Rodri just as much as we expected him to. But obviously, Gundogan coming back has not been, I wouldn't say quite as good as when he was at City last time. Playing him in a deeper role is obviously going to limit his effectiveness compared to last time, but it's just not the same player anyway. But yeah, if we were missing Alisson and Queeve, then you can imagine there would be a big drop-off, as well as Jaros did for 2/3 of the game. That's not the same thing. So it's difficult for City in that particular position, and because of the importance of that position as well. It's an area of the pitch that you've noted multiple times about how vital it is to Man City in particular, but to most teams, basically, they're trying to be on the front foot, and how well organised that exact player in that exact role needs to be. And as much as I do think Rico Lewis is a pretty good footballer,
absolutely,
he's not obviously at the level positionally and in terms of knowing everything about the game that you need to be in that kind of role, game in, game out, and performing brilliantly every week.
It's also an example of why playing as a fullback and inverting into midfield is not the same as playing in midfield. Like when Rico Lewis plays right back or even sometimes left back and steps into midfield, he looks really good because he's got all the time and space in the world, because that winger is not tracking him into a middle position. They're holding the width in the hopes of a turnover, because that's what managers do. But if you think back to when we started doing it, with Trent inverting into midfield at the end of the 22-23 season, and we went on that good run, teams were just letting Trent flow into midfield and not bothering to track him. And then Unai Emery bought Villa to Anfield, and he just made Jacob Ramsey man-mark Trent. And he followed him here, there, and everywhere. And Trent really struggled to get any kind of flow in the game. Rico Lewis has had the same issue. Like when he flows into midfield and the fullback does, or the winger doesn't come with him, he's playing in space. When he's starting in midfield, there is somebody in midfield whose job is to stop you playing. And against Spurs, I thought Basuma and Sarr absolutely ate him alive. He didn't know which way to turn. He didn't know what to do when he got the ball, because they were snapping at his heels and they were just taking it off him. And like you said, he's a very talented footballer. He's a good player. And he's absolutely a Premier League caliber right back at the moment. And he can do the inverting job quite well. But he's not a Premier League standard midfielder at this point in his career. He'll get there, but he'd need a lot of reps to get there as well. Most of his games have come at fullback. So it's not his fault. It's not Pep's fault either. It's just the manner of how the injuries have fallen for them. Maybe if they'd spent their money a little bit better over the years, they'd still have the player that they wanted to buy when they got Calvin Phillips for 40-odd million pounds. Maybe he wouldn't be out on loan. Maybe Matthias Nunes, who I think is a good player, but is ill-fitting in how City play. Maybe he would be better to step in. But Pep doesn't see that they're the players he wants, so Phillips is on loan, and Nunes has largely been on the bench for them. Now, he has had a couple of injuries himself, so there is that too. What do you make of City, though, at the moment? Like, they just seem so far off any... Like, I appreciate they've got some injuries. I do. But the injuries are in midfield. And yet, their attack is really, really struggling. Really struggling. 7 goals scored in their last 6 games. And then in defence, they've conceded 17 in those 6 games. So, yes, you're struggling to control the middle of the pitch, but surely when you've still got most of your first choice defence and most of your first choice attack, they should at least function somewhat similar. Even if they're not quite as good, there should be some sort of functionality or something you can fall back on. This is not like in 2021 when we lost all of our defenders and had to pull all of our midfielders back into defence So we were hamstrung in two areas. We're not seeing that with City. This is just one area of the pitch where they've had, yes, a bad run of luck, but it shouldn't be this bad, should it?
Blinds.com's Black Friday sales event is happening now with our best deals of the season. Let our design experts help you make the perfect selection for your home on your schedule. We can send free samples right to you and handle everything from measure to install. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Save up to 50% site-wide, plus doorbusters, and a free professional measure at the Blinds.com Black Friday sales event now. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Chronic migraine is 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for adults with migraine with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It prevents, on average, 8 to 9 headache days a month versus 6 to 7 for placebo.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Ask your doctor and visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
The holidays are here at the Home Depot, so let's get to decorating. Find your perfect tree in our huge assortment of shapes, sizes, and styles. Like the easy-to-assemble Jackson Noble Fir, with pre-lit branches perfect for styling with all your favorite ornaments. Or the Flock Starry Light Fraser Fir, with over 1,900 pre-lit memory wire branches that keep their shape so it's ready right out of the box. Ooh. Find the perfect tree now at the Home Depot.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
That's the thing. I don't know. I mean, it is in terms of it's happened and they've lost a game, so it is. But I mean, in the actual matches, in the circumstances of how things have happened, like take just the last game, like against, not the last game because they drew, but the last defeat against Spurs. After what, let's say 10 minutes, they could have been 2 goals up. Like Haaland had one really, really good chance, which normally you would expect him to just not even take a touch, just shoot and score. And he didn't. And he took a touch and it got stuck under his feet and he tried to go inside and then it was blocked off. That was a really good chance. And then there was another one where he was sort of left channel and he had another good opening there. It was cut across to him and he smacked it as hard as he could. And it's taken a block, but more often than not, I think he hits the target from there. Like, they weren't playing amazing, but if you go a goal up then at home to Tottenham, I don't know that Tottenham come out and play the way that they did from minutes, let's say 10 through to 25. Like, they scored with basically their first attack, and then suddenly they decided, we'll play football now. And they were much, much better than City. And that was obviously a mental thing which affected both teams a lot. And I think that that's the biggest issue Man City have right now, is they're in that moment where we had quite a few years back where we were losing. You know, we lost at home a couple of times. We hadn't lost there for ages, and we lost like several matches in a row and so on. I know that there were circumstances in terms of injuries and location in the team was different, but it fell to that point where we just couldn't get anything right at all and everything was going against us. And I don't doubt for 1 minute that, especially when that second goal went in for Man City for Tottenham so quickly, they felt exactly that. Like against Brighton, I don't know, again, whether it's just the late goal and the mentality is just gone from City at the moment. Too many people are, not fully switched on, whether it was too many non-seniors starting because they had that Simpson Pusey playing, Rico Lewis was playing, Gvardiol was centre-back where he hasn't been. I mean, I do think that there are a few players who realistically shouldn't be near Man City's lineup at the minute. Like Kyle Walker has been a bit of an abomination. I'm sure he would be honest. Like last year, as bad as Kieran Trippier was, I think Kyle Walker's around the same level of form so far this year, or at least over the recent part of this year. So I do think that individual aspects are there, but I do think as this group-wide mentality, as soon as they're conceding at the minute, like against Sporting was another example. Like they're ahead in the game and they were fair.
And they missed a big chance then immediately after scoring.
Yeah, and missed a penalty as well. And like just as soon as then something goes against them, it just seemed like that was it. It was like it was just all gone sort of thing. Like it's very hard to pinpoint exact things other than defensive errors because like you can look at like pressure on the ball in midfield, which isn't there, and that's fine. You can look at like runs through the centre backs, which like, happens all the time to teams. They maybe feel that they're getting punished for every chance at the minute against them. But individual errors, I think, is a massive thing, which must be surely stemming from confidence. I mean, I don't know what Ederson's doing for that last goal against Feyenoord. I've looked at it over and over again, and I cannot fathom why he feels at that moment, I have to make this ball. It doesn't make any sense. Why are you going anywhere near there? Why are you so far out of goal? Why are all the rest of Man City's players pushed up so far? None of it makes any sense.
And the thing is, it's not like the striker is running through the middle. Like he's wide. So you don't need, even though, yes, he's gotten behind the defense, the angle is still very much in your favor. If you just be a goalkeeper and stay where you're meant to be and then time it to narrow the angle as he comes towards you, you make that a much more difficult chance for him. And sure, maybe he can slip it across and there's somebody coming in, but your defenders are also running back. But you make it so much easier because by your decision to charge out of the goal, the defender who's now closest to goal has to go towards the player with the ball. And now you're left with an open man running into the middle because you've taken yourself out of the game and you've taken your defender, your covering defender out of the game because he's going to try and clean up your mistake. But it does feel like they're almost like a boxer now that just has one big punch in them. Like, I don't know if you watched Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. In the first round, it felt like if Tyson lands one punch, it could be over. And he threw a couple of big ones, didn't land them, and had nothing left. And that kind of feels like City at the moment. Like you said, against Spurs, they had those two opportunities. They fluffed both of them. Against Brighton, they go 1-0 up. But then the game settled into a really weird pattern where City weren't threatening. The Sporting game, they go 1 up. They miss a big chance. The commentator says, as they miss a big chance while they're 1-0 up, I can't believe how easy this is for City. That's what he said. I can't believe how easy this is for City. And then they got the floor wiped with them. You know, you go back to the other games as well that they've lost. They lost to Spurs in the Cup, right? That's fair enough. Put that to one side because ultimately it wasn't a full-strength team. But they lose to Bournemouth, a game in which they had a decent start to the game, but go behind and then go 2 behind. And even the Southampton game, they score on 5 minutes. And it felt like that's really all they have. They're really struggling to put Southampton away here. So it's a very strange situation. Like you said, confidence is definitely going to be a factor. But I do wonder, and I said this a few weeks ago when it was at 3 defeats in a row. Pep through his career, has never really had to deal with this. Like, when they lost their fourth in a row was the first time it had ever happened to him. Does Pep know how to turn it around? You know, I'm sure he does know, but as we've seen with Pep in the past, something that's been leveled on him is this idea that Pep overthinks things. So is Pep overanalyzing this run of defeats and going down a spiral where he's actually making it harder for himself to get this turned around?
I mean, possibly there's that. I think that City must be doing a lot of the same things in terms of their preparation and training and so on, because it looks when they're playing like they're still playing the same way, but it's a bit difficult to describe, but it looks like a surface way of playing, if you know what I mean. It looks like they don't 100% believe that they're going to do it, but they are doing it, but it doesn't look like they believe that that's going to work, that they're doing it. It's like anything that goes against it and the whole thing falls apart. It's a very, very delicate, fragile kind of belief in the way that they're playing at the minute. That's the only way I can really describe it. They're still doing the things that they do, but only to a very small extent, like only to a surface level of it. Like there were parts in that Tottenham game very early on. There were parts in the Sporting game where they passed the ball and moved it quickly and cut through in a similar way to Liverpool did, let's say, against Real Madrid in the second half. Not like the amount of times, not in, to any great shot at the end of it necessarily, but passing the ball and moving and then movement and people running beyond and so on. And they got through Tottenham and they could have been ahead easily. But then it stopped. And it seems to be stopping very, very easily at the minute. I still expect that when they come to Anfield, they're going to play the same way and they're going to be really, really good. So the really, really important thing is there for Liverpool, can you make something bad happen to Man City before they make something happen to you? Because I bet you if they do, we crunch them.
Yeah, I agree. Look, there's a bunch of different factors that could be playing in here that we won't know about. Like, we don't know what kind of impact all the nonsense going on around the club and their legal challenges against the Premier League and the 115 charges and all that. We don't know what kind of effect that has on the players. But surely there's one or two players, at least in that squad, who go home and go online and flick through social media and they see all this chat about 115 charges and corruption and all this kind of stuff. Like, that has to plant the odd seed of doubt in one or two in that club who look at it and think, well, what if the worst happens here? Like, what if the very worst thing happens here and we do get expelled from the league, which is not off the table. It is a possibility that they get expelled from the Premier League. And now those players could be looking at it and thinking, well, I'm not staying if we're not in the Premier League. I'm not staying if we're not in the Champions League. That's why I'm here. So that could plant a seed of doubt. Obviously, there was the Pep stuff with the contract that rumbled on and on and on. And I know he signed a new deal recently, but that may have played a factor as well, where certain players were looking at it and thinking, well, if he's not committed, why would I be committed? You've got the Ederson situation where the last 2 summers in a row, he's been linked with moves away. Bernardo Silva, it's 3 summers in a row where he's been linked with moved away and seems to actively want to move away. And then you've got the age profile of the squad. And I thought this is quite interesting. So 3 goalkeepers, Ortega, Ederson and Scott Carson, 32, 31, 39. In defence, Kyle Walker's 34, John Stones is 30, Nathan Ake turns 30 in February, Manuel Akanji turns 30 next summer. That's quite an old group of defenders. You've also got young defenders in Gvardiol, Rico Lewis and Wilson Esbrand. They're between 20 and 22. The only defender who's that kind of prime age, where we used to talk about this with Liverpool, that we were lacking players in that kind of prime age, 23 to 28. The only one they've got is Ruben Diaz. That's it. No other defender at the club. Then you look at the midfielders. Kovacic is 30, turns 31 before the end of the season. Grealish will turn 30 at the start of next season. Rodri is 28, but he's done for the season. So he's going to come back, a 29-year-old coming off an ACL. KDB is 33. Gundogan is 34. Bernardo is 30. Then you've got Savinho's 20. Bob is 21. McAtee is 22. And Jeremy Doku's 22. The only midfielder they have in that sort of in that prime kind of age, Phil Foden and Matthias Nunes, who the manager doesn't seem to fully trust. And then in attack, the only actual pure striker in the club is Erling Haaland. So in their entire squad, you've got Haaland, Foden, Nunes, and Diaz, who are in that 23, 24 to 27, 28 kind of age range. That's it. One of them is in terrible form this year, Phil Foden. One of them doesn't have the trust of the manager, Matthias Nunes. One of them has seemingly an inability to put together a string of matches in Ruben Diaz. And then there's Haaland, who is an incredible goal scorer, but he doesn't alleviate problems when the team is playing badly. If anything, he compounds them because he's hopeless off the ball, doesn't create for others, and if he doesn't score, he doesn't really do anything else. Like, he's the type of guy that can have the exact same game and walk away with no goals or 3 goals. So you can't rely on him to dig you out of a hole on a consistent basis. The team really has to be functioning to get him the opportunities. I was looking through the squad the other day, and I just find the makeup of it to be really odd, the way it's very heavily loaded with 29 plus, and then there's a bunch of kind of 22 and under players, but there's very little meat in the middle. And I do think not having those players in their primes, like a string of them, the way we had in 18 to 20, the way they had in 17 to 19, and even in the early part of this run, I do wonder if maybe just the makeup of the squad is harming their ability to put together consistent performances.
I mean, maybe, but I don't think it was, obviously it wasn't a problem last year, but I don't think even start of this season it looked like it was a big problem. Now, I do think that it's quite a significant problem when we're talking about Pep staying for another 2 years and team building. Certainly from that perspective, I think it's a big issue, especially when you add in all the stuff that you were talking about. Like if they, let's say they're very suddenly handed a transfer ban as part of, whatever they get, whatever else they get given, I do think that they would be very, very problematic for them, across the course of 2 seasons or something like that. If you're going to force Silva to stay more transfer windows when he wants to leave, is it going to be Ederson finally says, no, I'm done, and Ortega and nobody is left after them? Or, like you say, you can't have a backup for Haaland because you haven't already got one in place. So I think from that perspective, it would certainly be a real problem. I don't think game to game it should be that much of a problem as it is, though. I really, really don't. Like, if you look at the team that they could put out against us, let's say Ederson, do you think Walker starts?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. So we'll leave him in then. Walker, Akanji, Diaz, Vardiol. I mean, both Vardiol and Walker could be left at home, never mind on the bench, given the recent form. But do you think he keeps faith with him as well?
But the thing is, right, that is probably the defence that he will play. I think their best defender over the last 3 years has been Nathan Ake. And there's no place for him in there.
No. Although,
unless he plays centre-back. But he doesn't seem to like Ake and Diaz as a centre-back pair.
No. Was it sort of half-time he came on, was it?
Last weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah, he came on at half-time for Stones.
For Stones, that's right. He went off injured. I mean, he could put Ake back to left-back because Gvardiol has been involved in so many goals, to be fair. But regardless, let's say it's one of those two. So it's Ederson, Walker, Akanji, Diaz, and then Gvardiol or Ake, right? So that's a back 5. There's nothing there that you would look at over the last 4 years and say, that's terrible. Like, nothing. Like, I know that the form is there, but there's nothing there that you would say that's a massive issue for them, and that's a big part of the reason why they've lost 5 games, or they haven't won in 6, or they might come out of Anfield and not not 1 in 7. And ahead of them, Gundogan and Lewis. You might say that right now is definitely not title winning, but it's not problematic, I don't think, to the extent that they're having. And De Bruyne, Silva, Nunez or Grealish or Foden, whoever starts, it's nothing a problem. And Haaland up front, they couldn't have anybody better. They just
no.
So
this is the thing. It's a collective of players that have won 2 or 3 or 4, or in some cases 5 and 6 Premier League titles. They've won a European Cup together. They've won the domestic cups together. This is a group, even without Rodri, even without Mateo Kovacic. It's a group of players that have proven that individually they can be a big part of title-winning squads or title-winning teams. So something else is amiss. It's not just down to the fact that we don't have Rodri, unless there's some weird psychological thing where they've just become so dependent on, which I would find weird in a squad that's won this much.
Yeah, me too.
If he was Lionel Messi, I could understand it.
Well, like, there's plenty of them there who were like winning trophies before Rodri came along.
Yeah. KDB's been there years and years.
Gundogan,
Bernardo.
Yeah. No, like I do think that a huge part of it is mentality, and Man City's, which has been absolutely ironclad for years, it's got a break in it right now. From whatever reason, whether it's the off-pitch stuff, I don't personally believe that would be the case. Rodri obviously is an impact in terms of tactics and playing, but I don't believe that they will feel, without him, we can't possibly defend. We can't possibly see out a 3-goal lead in the Champions League. If they get through once, they are going to get through 3. I just don't believe that that's true. So it's a combination of lots and lots of things, which is obviously mostly on-pitch stuff.
No, none of the goals they conceded against Feyenoord had anything to do with Rodri being there or not there. They're all individual moments of stupidity.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Black Friday is coming, and for the adults in your life who love the coolest toys, well, there's something for them this year too. Bartesian is the premier craft cocktail maker that automatically makes more than 60 seasonal and classic cocktails, each in under 30 seconds at the push of a button. And right now, Bartesian is having a huge site-wide sale. You can get $100 off any cocktail maker or cocktail maker bundle when you spend $400 or more. So, if the cocktail lover in your life has been good this year, or the right kind of bad, get them Bartesian. At the push of a button, make bar-quality cosmopolitans, martinis, Manhattans, and more. All in just 30 seconds. All for $100 off. Amazing toys aren't just for kids. Get $100 off a cocktail maker when you spend $400 through Cyber Monday. Visit Bartesian.com/cocktail. That's BARTESIAN.com/cocktail.